You're listening to the Plain Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carl Stebbings and Matt Smith.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 165 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings, and not joining me in the kitchen studio this week is my co-host Matt Smith. Matt is unfortunately he's on sick leave today. Yeah, bless him. He's not very well. He's been a bit under the weather now for a little while, and he was feeling a bit poorly while we were in Pitts. But he's not with me in the kitchen studio tonight. But I'm here, and hopefully things are going to go okay with the tower. It misbehaved earlier, but well, actually not the tower. My Skype laptop misbehaved earlier, but hopefully we'll be okay. But luckily I have a couple of partners in crime to help me on the show this evening. So we are going to give, firstly, we're going to give a big warm welcome to the legend that is Neville Bounds.
Hi Carlos, how you doing? Thank you very much indeed for inviting me on, and well, shame that Matt's not well, but very pleased to be invited back, and yeah, thanks ever so much, and hope your jet lag is not too laggy.
No, I didn't suffer from any jet lag, Nev. It was the fabulous Boeing 787 Dreamliner, so I didn't have any jet lag at all. How was your flight, by the way, Nev, with BA?
Very nice. I had unusually for me, I had 3 hours sleep on the plane on the way back, which is, I've never slept on a plane ever in my life before, and I actually woke up quite refreshed, I have to say, but it did catch up with me in the following day because I had to do a couple of days worth of exhibition, but no, it was all right, and I'm just about back to normal now, I'm pleased to say.
Oh, that's good news to hear. We all had a fantastic time, obviously, at the Wings over Pittsburgh Air Show, and we all absolutely thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. But we have also got another guest on the show this week, and it's someone who we met at the Wings of a Pittsburgh Air Show, and yeah, we made very good friends, all of us straight away, with this chap here. So I shall got a huge introduction for him here. It's going to take me an hour to read through all the everything that he's done. So our guest on the show tonight is a first officer with a US regional airline. He was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, started flight training at 12 years old, blimey, attended Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. He's also a CFI. He's got a bachelor's in science and aeronautics. He's also flown the Cessna 208B Caravan for a Part 135 airline, and currently flies an Embraer 170 and 175. And he's also got 140 hours of flight time. So welcome onto the show, First Officer Craig.
Hey everybody, thanks Carlos for having me. Hello Nev, good to see you again. Sorry Matt couldn't make it. I hope he gets well soon. I did not start my flight training at the age 12. That's when I caught the aviation bug.
Oh, right.
I would hope that the airlines wouldn't have hired me if I had 140 hours. I think I have a little more than that. I think in that intro I sent you, it was 140 in the Embraer 170 so far.
Okay, yeah, that's my fault. That's
It's all good.
So how many hours you got on the old logbooks now then, Craig? Roughly,
I think
top of your
I
head.
broke just over 1,200 as of last week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And is that just in the Embraer, or is that sort of total time?
That's total time.
Yeah. Wow. Brilliant. So we're going to have a chat with you later on, Craig, on the show about your career and everything that you've done to do with flying. So did you enjoy yourself at Pittsburgh then, Craig?
Oh, it was a blast meeting the fine folks that are in the aviation podcast community. You too, Matt, and all the folks from APG and all the listeners. And my fiance Ashley was able to go, and we had a blast. And we hope to get to meet you all again sometime in the future.
What was your highlight, Craig, for actual air show itself? Any particular aircraft that you enjoyed? Apart from the Embraer 175 that was on display.
If you take that one out. I was a fan of the, some of you might have heard in the latest Airplane Geeks podcast, had a little tip in there. I really enjoyed the MiG that was there at the air show. I kind of like the World War II and right after World War II era of aircraft, and just seeing how small, nimble, and sleek that is. It was a lot of fun to see that fly around.
Excellent. So we have got loads of news to get through on the show this week, and we've got a little bit of military news as well. So what else we've got? I think got a segment from Pip this week. Pip is he's a bit busy flying here, there, and everywhere this week. But like I said, we have got some news to get through. So if everyone's ready, we're going to start the show as we do each week with a rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if everyone's ready.
Yep, we're ready.
Let's go.
I am ready as well.
Okay. So, kicking off this week's first news story with a slight technical hitch there. Wonderful. It just goes to prove, doesn't it? We all need a Matt here, don't we, really? At the end of the day, we definitely need a Matt. Yeah. So this week's first news story then kicking off on the dailymail.co.uk website. And the headline, would you spend £3,000 on second-hand airport seats? The weird and wonderful aviation items available on eBay. So plane enthusiasts have created a lucrative online market for people wanting to acquire genuine airline items. The range of products include a trio of business class seats, passenger safety belts, a no smoking sign. Many items regularly sell for hundreds of pounds, with one terminal bench boasting a £3,328 price tag. Plane spotters, or rather aviation enthusiasts, have long been defined by their devoted runway presence. But as technology continues to shift obsessions online, it seems that increasing numbers of them are indulging their interests without leaving the house. In fact, the unlikely marketplace has emerged via eBay, with collectors now trading carrier keepsakes for thousands of pounds in the lucrative wing of the movement. So without the need for safety instructions, here is a list of the most bizarre buys up for grabs. So the first one on the list here is a bench. I'm going to put that one on the screen so you guys in the YouTube chat room can see. So we've got a bench here, a black airline airport bench with a price tag of, well, Craig, you'd know this one, $4,318.
Wow.
What else have we got here? We've got there's a bigger picture there of the bench that looks very benchy. What else have we got? A first-class leopard print stool from a Boeing 747. Now that's £1,800 or $2,350. Doesn't say what airline that one's out of. But what else have we got? So we have got double business class seats from a A330. You can. These don't look too bad actually. Two of those seats there that's going to set you back £490, or it says here some wear and tear on these. They look too bad actually. There we go. Some pictures there for those of you watching in the YouTube room. You can see they actually don't look too bad, Nev. I'd quite happily have those.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. We've got a service trolley. Next on the list is £235. Will get you one of the flight attendant service trolleys with with all the drawers inside. Quite interesting. It's actually, there's a picture here. It shows you what you can make out of. It shows you what you can cover the actual drawers with, which is rather interesting. What else have we got here? We've got the lap belts. These make awesome belts, as in belts for your trousers, because I have one of these. £6.99 actually for one of these lap belts, which I don't think is too bad. We've got Frontier Airlines reserved seat signs. You can get one of those for just under £8 if you want one of those. Looks quite interesting there. Don't quite know why you want one of those. We've got a collectible airline TV LCD display monitors. Nev, these look rather ancient.
Yeah, I was going to say they're probably not very up to date, are they? And I think you could probably buy one at your local electronics store for a lot less money, possibly. But yes, they those were the original ones, weren't they? Put in the old aircraft. So yeah, they're getting on a bit.
So we've got number 8. We've got a Qatar Airways cabin crew badge. at £18 with the name Samuel on the badge there. So handy if your name is Samuel. Obviously not if your name is Bob or something along those lines. So number 9, we've got a Boeing 747 first class telephone. Quite well. Actually, this you could probably get to work. I'd imagine you'd probably have to make this one work. But for $95 or £73, you can get yourself one of these first class telephones. Number 10 then. This is more like it. Here we go. Look, a vintage 727 or 707 airline passenger seat ashtray. There we go. Look, I mean, that looks unused. $20 for that. Just under $20 for that one. Mind you, it does say here though, Nev, that's charging you 36. I think it was £36 to ship that from the US to the UK. So the shipping's quite quite a lot for that. So there we go, a list of weird and wonderful things you can find on eBay. I tried to find some bits and pieces on eBay for myself for a certain aircraft. I shan't mention the name because those of you in the chat will know which aircraft I tried to find some bits for. And there's hardly none on there at all. So if anyone's got any Lockheed TriStar pieces at all laying around, please get in contact with me. So moving on to the next story then, Nev, this one is all for you.
Thanks. And in Matt's absence, of course, I've been given the Ryanair story. And this is from the mirror.co.uk website. It says, drunken British stags kicked off Ryanair flight to Mallorca after group brawled on seats and stripped down 2 boxers. 3 men were arrested when the flight from Manchester to Palma touched down, leaving fellow passengers cheering at their departure. A rowdy stag do got off to a nightmare start as 3 men were kicked off a Ryanair plane by Spanish police after allegedly fighting on board the aircraft. The early flight from Manchester Airport to Palma saw a group of about 15 apparently drinking, fighting and swearing before they even took off at 6:20 a.m. 6:20 a.m., ladies and gentlemen. A fellow passenger claimed some brawling across seats, swearing at each other, and being abusive, with one man stripping down to a tiny pair of boxer shorts. I don't remember seeing Captain L on that flight, but anyway. Another apparently punched a hole in the overhead panel. The passenger, who asked not to be named, told the Manchester Evening News, "It was a nightmare from start to finish. It was stressful. I'm a nervous flyer and there were kids on board." The flight was delayed by about 20 minutes and they wouldn't sit down before takeoff. As the flight went on, it was just a nightmare. They were messing about, fighting and drinking their own alcohol. They were swearing at each other and fighting and slapping each other. There were bottles, drinking bottles of their own wine and Jaeger. People were complaining there were kids on the plane. I will be complaining there were kids on the plane, but I think they meant something else there. When they all started fighting in the middle, I ended up having to move to the front, this passenger said. And there's various pictures here, and it says, nobody could get a drink, staff couldn't get a trolley through. What can you do if they are being that aggressive? And cabin crew called police at Palma ahead of the landing to ask for assistance, a Ryanair spokesman confirmed. They said that 3 men were then detained by officers. He added the crew of this flight from Manchester to Palma on May the 18th called ahead to request police assistance after 3 passengers became disruptive in flight. The aircraft landed normally and local police removed and detained these customers upon arrival into Palma. The safety and comfort of our customers, crew and aircraft is our #1 priority, and we will not tolerate unruly or disruptive behaviour at any time. This is now a matter for local police. Well, there you go. That's doesn't that just I don't want to sound like a stuck record here, but just doesn't that sum it all up really for you? People drinking on the plane and drinking in the terminal, presumably well before the time of departure, and then this happens.
Well, one of those new rules I think that they're going to try and bring in when this new Brexit thing all starts and kicks off is they're going to be heftier penalties for drinking your own alcohol on board aircraft and that, Nev. So yeah. Let's hopefully that might stop. Is this? I'm guessing, Craig, this is not an issue that you have on board your particular airline.
No, in my short time of being a commercial airline pilot here, I have not had any issues like that, and I'm not sure about over in the UK or elsewhere, but in the US, I know in airport terminals, if they serve alcohol, they have to stay within the immediate vicinity of that little shop or store that sold the alcohol, and has to be drank before you can leave that area. You can't take it out with you onto the plane or anything.
So what are the actual rules in the US, Craig, for the actual drinking stuff on? But obviously they serve alcohol on board aircraft. But are there any particular sort of stricter rules in the US?
As far as passengers getting on board, if they look intoxicated at all, blatantly obvious, then they are not allowed to board. But other than that, if someone has a beer or two and doesn't show any symptoms of being drunk, then there's nothing from preventing us letting them on board unless they become an issue to the safety of flight or to passenger comfort.
I think you should know your limits. I think that's what people need to do. I mean, me and Adrian definitely knew our limits on the way over with Air Canada, because we stuck to a limited amount of Canadian club whiskey, which is quite nice. If you're watching, Adrian, it was very nice, mixed with ice cream as well, which was something the crew told us to do, which actually was very nice indeed. So the next story, moving on, Craig, is all for you.
All right, this is from the Telegraph. The rule that forbids pilots from chatting below 10,000 feet and the crash that created it. Have you seen the images of some pilots taken from the cockpit? Remarkable, mind-blowing, fantastic. Cities spread out below, their streets and railways pumping like arteries, or countryside green and lush, stretching for miles and miles, stopping only at the horizon. But all these have taken at least above 10,000 feet. In fact, pilots are barely allowed to talk to each other if the aircraft is below this altitude. And this is thanks to something called the sterile cockpit rule. And on the webpage, it explains the sterile cockpit rule, but I can just give a brief summary for what I understand as the sterile cockpit rule here in the U.S. is anytime you're below 10,000 feet and you're not in a cruising state, the flight crew has to be only chatting about things pertinent to the flight, so there should not be any talks of where you're going for dinner later that night or what you did this past weekend. I haven't had this experience, but a friend of mine told me that there are a lot of occasions where chatting does go on below 10,000 feet. And it's hard, from what I understand, because you start a conversation as you're coming, descending or climbing out. And but, yep, 10,000 feet you should just keep conversation to things that pertain to safety of flight. And that goes for the cabin crew in the back as well. They can't call us, ask us if we want coffee or anything. We have Embraer 175, we have a sterile light that allows the cabin crew to know that we're below 10,000 feet and that they can only contact us on a safety of flight issue.
So what the longest legs you do, Craig, with the aircraft? You fly the 170, 175. I mean, are they kind of over an hour long?
The longest flight I've done so far was about, I'd say, 3 hours and 3.5 hours or so.
So you do need a bit of time at the cruise, I suppose, to kind of chat to the captain and discuss where you are going that night for food.
Yes, during those times when we're just cruising along, there's chatting about each other's lives, how we got in aviation, previous experiences, and then once you're tired of talking to that person, usually company material you could read if you really wanted to. I know there's a lot of crossword puzzles and some other stuff that comes out, but usually talking is how we pass the time.
So the next story, moving on the nypost.com, this one, and the headline, contrary to popular belief, airline satisfaction is at an all-time high. So this flies in the face of everything we know. Airline customer satisfaction is higher than ever, according to a new survey. Wow, what, after the last month? Blimey. Despite all the passengers' horror stories dominating the headlines recently, it's impossible to think about an airline customer satisfaction without replaying the incident, the recent images of a passenger being dragged from a seat. But our data shows that as a whole, the airline industry has been making marked improvements in customer satisfaction across a variety of metrics, from ticket costs to flight crew, says Michael Taylor, research firm J.D. Power. The company says American flyers' satisfaction this year reached 756 on its 1,000-point scale, up 30 points from last year, and its highest ever in the 13 years the company has been conducting its North American airline satisfaction study. Sure, airlines are hitting passengers with strollers, making them pee in cups, and possibly killing giant bunnies. But they are also charging lower prices and losing fewer bags, the company found. Alaska Airlines was rated as the best traditional carrier in the study, a title it has held for a decade now, with United and Air Canada the most hated. Oh, I don't believe that for 1 minute, Air Canada. Southwest came out on top for budget airlines, while Frontier earned the lowest score in the cheap flight category. So there we go. Interesting, I think. Obviously, with the news stories that are coming out, seem to be coming out every week now about someone being hit, thrown, or chucked out of the door of an aircraft. It is surprising, I suppose, to see a story like this that says that the customer satisfaction is good. But again, I didn't have any issues at all with Air Canada. Nev, I'm guessing that the staff were looking after you incredibly well with BA.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that what you've got to remember, of course, is since the advent of the smartphone, and we sort of said this loads of times, haven't we, that there will always be incidents of some sort. But just imagine how many flights there are per day and how many passengers are carried per day and how relatively few things we get to hear about. So, it's still a good experience, generally speaking, but there will always be a situation where something happens to somebody, I'm sure.
So for you, Craig, any particular airline that stands out customer service-wise that you've had the opportunity to fly on?
Most of my personal flying has been on Southwest, and as most people know, it's usually a good experience, and I've had that experience as well. Contrary to recent events, this past January, I did fly on United from Dulles in Washington, D.C. over to Paris and back, and I didn't have any issues. It was great service all around. So it seems to be that it's the silent majority not speaking up and the loud few incidences that are causing all the issues, in my opinion. So
there we go. So United aren't all bad, so, he says. So, Nev, the next story, moving on, is all for you.
Oh, look, it's a British Airways story.
Ooh,
fantastic.
Look at that.
Well, of course, they have just introduced business class back to their domestic sectors. And it says that almost 70,000 passengers have opted to fly in British Airways' new business class on UK domestic routes in the first 6 weeks of its operation. Benefits include lounge access, more personal space, free food and drink, dedicated check-in, priority boarding, and a baggage allowance of 2 cabin bags and 2 checked bags. The cabin features a 2x2 configuration with the middle seat free. And the airline's domestic services around the UK and Ireland with Club Europe include flights from Heathrow to Aberdeen, Inverness, Leeds, Bradford, Manchester and Newcastle, Heathrow and Gatwick to Belfast, Heathrow, Gatwick and London City to Edinburgh and Glasgow, and London City to the Isle of Man. And BA Chairman and CEO Alex Cruz said that Club Europe is proving incredibly popular with our customers on domestic services. In just a month and a half, we've had nearly 70,000 take to the skies with us, and the feedback we're getting is great. Customers are telling us that they love the new consistency throughout their travels with us. They are getting the smooth, easy experience they want, particularly for those transferring onto our European and long-haul networks. And they're also enjoying the additional benefits and the improved catering and service that we launched across all of our Club Europe services at the same time. Now, the reason for this story is because what they had a situation was is that people that were flying business class from almost anywhere in the world to London and then connecting on a domestic flight had to go in a domestic class. It was a single class service. So the fact they've now introduced that onto the those sectors as well is a big improvement. So I think a lot of people will appreciate that, certainly.
Well, did you manage to fly business class over to Canada this time, Nev?
I did, and it cost me an awful lot of money. Don't tell Mrs. Nev how much it cost, for goodness sake. This is just between us, okay? Yeah, I did, and it's a great. You have to say it is a premium service. It is very expensive, but very enjoyable. And I think for me, who does suffer from jet lag quite a bit, that those lie flat beds were fantastic. And then on the lounge, I've got a BA lounge in Toronto on the way back. I bumped into the athlete Dame Kelly Holmes, as you do, and helped her to some champagne. I'm sure she's tweeting up that she bumped into me. But,
I'm sure she is. I have to say, for me, obviously, the Air Canada very, very kindly put me in premium economy on the way out to Canada, which was fantastic, absolutely really good. The service was really good, the food was good, the whole experience, apart from, and I have to say, it's probably the worst selection of IFE that I have seen on a large airline such as Air Canada or anyone. For me, the choice of films and TV programs was bearing in mind I was in the middle of the centre seats in premium on the way out. Luckily, I had Adrian Meacham sitting next to me, so we had obviously a good old chat. But compared to Emirates and Qatar and Etihad, the selection of IFE, the programs and stuff was not that great. I have to say, there was only a handful of films. The TV box sets they had on offer were none that I'd heard of before, and also the audio selection, the albums and stuff. I, as probably most people know, do a job as a DJ, so I kind of get to know most of the music that's in existence. And I didn't recognise any album at all on the entire playlist of Air Canada's of offerings. But I'm guessing you had a bit more of a selection with BA, Nev.
It was enormous, and I've never seen quite so much before, and they do a great job of that. And but yeah, there's lots of video on demand. There's games. There's also a rather, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, Carlos, but there's a chat function, so you can chat with other passengers on the aircraft that you obviously probably don't know. I didn't try that facility because that's just a bit weird for me.
They
but anyway, I don't know whether you've had a go at it before.
No, they did have it on the on Air Canada actually, Nev. You could go seat to chat, but like I said, Adrian was sitting next to me, so I didn't have the need to do that. But yeah, kind of creepy if you want to chat to someone who's sitting 20 or 30 rows behind you.
I like a bit of social media, as you know, but that's just one step too far for my liking.
So for you, Craig, when you're travelling transatlantic and stuff, how important do you think is IFE for you? Obviously, looking out the window at the view is one of the best full HD views you can get, but is IFE important for you?
I've only had the one long haul experience this past January, and I'd say it was nice to have a selection of movies to watch, but with today's day and age, just about everyone has iPad or smartphone or the like, and it's very easy if you have Netflix or something like that to download movies or TV shows onto that and watch it as you go. So if the IFEs have a large selection, that'd be nice to have a variety. But if people don't get what they want on there, I'm sure they'll just use their personal devices to watch what they would like.
Yeah, definitely. People more and more these days, I think, are taking iPads and tablets of some description on board aircraft with them. I know I do, but that's mostly to play games on. But moving on to the next story, which is for you, Craig.
Yes. All right. From MarketWatch.com, Singapore Airlines to phase out 4 Airbus A380s. Singapore Airlines will surrender the lease on 4 of its oldest Airbus A380 super jumbo jets, confirming that the first airline to operate the biggest passenger jets doesn't want to keep the earliest delivered planes of the model in its fleet. Singapore Airlines, however, will take delivery of 3 A380s jets by March 2018 as it seeks to operate a young fleet of planes that requires less maintenance. The flag carrier also said it will take delivery of 10 Airbus A350 planes during its current fiscal year that runs through March 2018. The decision to phase out the oldest A380 jets was expected. The planes are on lease and will be 10 years old by the time they leave Singapore Airlines fleet. The jets will test the second-hand market for the plane, which can seat 540 passengers in a typical cabin layout and over 700 passengers in the all-economy configuration. Airlines have struggled to find dense enough routes to fly the A380s, though the double-deck jets are extremely popular passengers. Malaysia Airlines, another A380 operator, has decided to reconfigure its planes into all-economy class and place them in a new airline that would seek to tap Muslim religious tourism markets. Singapore Airlines also said it will spend 29.3 billion Singapore dollars, which equates to about 21 billion US dollars, to buy new planes over the next 5 years. That includes 5.3 billion in Singapore dollars in the current fiscal year that started April 1st.
It'll be interesting to see, who takes these old A380s that Singapore are getting rid of, because I don't think there's a Airbus A380 second-hand market at the moment, Craig. I haven't heard of any A380s being sold in the second-hand market.
Neither have I. In my opinion, I still think it's a fairly new aircraft compared to some of the planes we saw. As Micah just mentioned in the chat room, the B-52 is 60 years old, and they're still flying that. So it's surprising to see that a plane just 10 years old, they're already trying to get rid of. What
do you reckon, Nev? Who do you think would be snapping up these second-hand A380s off Singapore? Because I reckon they're going to be probably a very well-maintained
certainly,
aircraft.
Singapore and their maintenance are legendary, I think, aren't they? I would say that the Asian market is very important for this kind of aircraft. But I'm just, as I may have said a few weeks ago, I'm just wondering whether this aircraft, as good as it is, and I'd love to go on one, I've not been on one yet, I just wonder whether it's just come a little bit too late. And if it had come a few years earlier, maybe people might find that it might be more useful. But I think the running costs of it are probably quite high. Although, of course, per passenger, if you have a full load, that gallons per mile per passenger or something like that, is very good value. But I would imagine that I would expect maybe some of the Chinese market perhaps might pick some of these up because they need the high density.
Yeah, because obviously we all know that Emirates have got the largest fleet of the Airbus A380s in the world, and there'll come a time soon, I'd imagine, when Emirates will also start to phase out some of their older A380s. Because I think I'm right in thinking, Nev, that Airbus decided not to re-engine the A380 in the end. Hello?
That's right. Yeah. So you dropped out a bit there. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can still hear you fine. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, you dropped out slightly. No, I think it's one of these aircraft which is it's designed for a very specific market and very specific roles. So you've got to use them on the right routes, I would say, with the right passenger loads. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So next story, moving on, is on the NY Post again, New York Post, and the headline, and this one propped up this week actually on the 18th, which was yesterday. And I'm sure we had a story like this a year ago, I think it was. But anyway, the story is headline: Dutch King has been a guest pilot on commercial airliner for 21 years. Now, Nev, I'm sure we had a story about this a while back.
Yeah, it does sound familiar, doesn't it? Yes, certainly.
So the story goes on, The Hague, Netherlands. So some Dutch passengers on KLM flights might have recognised the co-pilot's voice when he introduced himself on the airline's City Hopper services. It was not just their co-pilot telling them the weather conditions and estimated time of arrival. It was their king. King Willem-Alexander told national newspaper De Telegraaf, an interview published on Wednesday, that he has ended his role as a regular guest pilot after 21 years on KLM's fleet of Fokker 70 planes. And before that, on Dutch carrier Martinair, he will now retrain to fly Boeing 737s as the Fokkers are being phased out of service. While it is no secret that Willem-Alexander is a qualified pilot who sometimes flew KLM passenger flights, it was not clear how frequently it happened. De Telegraaf said he does it twice a month as a guest flyer, but the king is always the co-pilot. The 50-year-old father of three, monarch to 17 million Dutch citizens, calls flying a hobby that lets him leave his royal duties on the ground and fully focus on something else. He says, "You have an aircraft, passengers and crew. You have responsibilities for them," the king said to the De Telegraaf. You can't take your problems from the ground into the skies. You can completely disengage and concentrate on something else. That, for me, is the most relaxing part of flying. Willem-Alexander said he's rarely recognised by passengers, especially since security was tightened up on board aircraft in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. Before September the 11th, the cockpit door was open and people regularly came in to have a look at the flight deck, though it was nice or surprising that why it was sitting there, he said, adding very few people recognise him as he walks through Amsterdam Schiphol Airport in KLM uniform and cap. And even when he makes announcements to passengers, Willem-Alexander says that as a co-pilot he doesn't have to give his name. So while some people recognise his voice, it's far from all passengers. But most don't listen anyway, he added. Interesting story, Nev, for sure. I can't imagine our king ever flying, one of our prestigious BA flights. Although,
I don't think so. No, but Prince Charles has got a bit of previous flying, hasn't he? Not all of it terribly successful. He was responsible for causing a 146 to go off the end of the runway up in one of the Scottish Islands a few years ago, and hasn't flown since. So, but maybe the king of the Netherlands is just keeping his hours up, and
exactly.
That's good. I mean, it's great, isn't it? That he's doing something which is a normal job, as it were.
So, Craig, in your career so far, when you've been flying, have you had any famous run-ins with anyone at all?
No.
No.
I do believe someone within our company, he's pretty big in the music industry and did some work with some of the classic rock bands of the 70s and 80s, I believe, but I haven't flown with him yet, and that's about as most interesting person or famous person I know of within our company, but no kings, no presidents, nothing of the like.
So you wouldn't expect to come on the flight deck one day and find Trump sitting in the captain's seat?
No, I don't think that's going to happen, and I'd be quite shocked if I did see him there.
So, passenger-wise, though, Craig, I take it you obviously you haven't flown any famous passengers since you've been flying the 170, 175.
I see all our passengers as fine folks worthy of the best service, but no, I have not seen any famous people that I could just tell by looking at them. So maybe some skirted by when I was doing the walk around or something, but none to my knowledge so far.
Oh. Right, so moving on then to the next story then. Nev, I think this one is for you.
Yes, this is all about a passenger on an Air Canada flight from Jamaica, Toronto, which was diverted to Orlando. after authorities say a passenger became aggressive, attacked the crew with coffee pots, and tried to open a cabin door. A federal criminal complaint says crew members and other passengers secured Brandon Michael Cornier using zip ties. Orlando television station WFTV reports that the FBI was contacted around 7:30 p.m. on Monday. Investigators said Cornier yelled at passengers for looking at him. They allege he grabbed a coffee pot from the galley and swung it at crew members before saying it would only take one guy to take the plane down. He allegedly lunged for a rear door and began pulling the lever. Federal agents arrested Cornier, who faces several charges. It's not clear whether he has a lawyer. I suggest that he gets one. Well, there you go. And actually, of course, this happened, that probably took off just before my BA flight did on Monday, going back to London. So there was obviously this Air Canada flight happened just before I took off. But yes, I mean, I think it's very distressing once again, isn't it? You know, bad passenger behaviour, and luckily it's not very regular, but we're just hearing a lot about it, aren't we? So and of course, well, let's hope they throw the book at him in terms of, you know, making sure that, you know, a cost of a diversion is absolutely horrific. And it obviously disrupts crew positioning, aircraft positioning, timetable, everything. So, yes, this chap needs to have a talking to.
We appear to have someone trying to call in. I think this is, let's have a look here. Hello. Hello? No, I thought that might have been.
Yes, it looks like it's somebody that we might know.
It doesn't seem to be answering, no. Trying to call in.
I don't hear anything.
No.
Oh.
No, I think that was actually Captain Al trying to call in. But what's happened to Captain Al, we'll never know, I think.
He might be able to fly an A320 or A321, but he can't get the Skype going.
No. Oh.
Hello.
Oh, Captain Al. Hello, greetings. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
Oh, we're right in the middle of a live show, so thanks for calling in.
You're welcome.
So whereabouts are you in the world, Al?
I'm on the M62.
Oh, wonderful.
Somewhere near Halifax.
Okay. So you thought you'd give us a call in today on the show. That's very kind of you, Al.
Absolutely. Well, I saw you floundering earlier on your setting up procedures.
So you're on your way down here to give me a hand?
Well, no, because I haven't got 2 weeks for the drive down to you.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
how's the show going?
Yeah, it seems to be going very well, Al. Thank you. Yeah, I think we're on top of things here. I think.
Well, until I hijacked it.
Till you hijacked it. Yeah. Are you driving at the moment as well, Al?
Funnily enough, yes, I am. I'm not walking along the motorway.
So unfortunately, there's no video for Al. So we can't see Al. There we go.
Well, I can give you the inside of the car. Hang on, here we go.
Here we go.
Are you receiving the inside of the car?
No, but we have got a nice picture of the what looks like the flight deck of the A320. Is that? Or... No, we can't see you, Al. Unfortunately.
Oh, okay, never mind. I have accepted the video, but never mind.
Oh well. Well, we did try. So where are you off to anyway, Al? Are you flying, or are you off flying today, or?
No, I have flown this morning. I did Manchester to Malaga and back, and now I'm driving to Leeds to do Leeds and Palma and back tomorrow.
Oh, sounds like fun. So you so for the benefit of the Facebook stalkers, or the Twitter stalkers, I should say. So where is it you're heading again tomorrow?
I'm leaving Leeds to go to Palma de Mallorca, and then from Palma de Mallorca back to Leeds.
There we go. You heard it here first, guys. Get in that Twitter account, get in on the Flight Radar 24, and keep your eyes open for Captain Al. What's going to be the aircraft of choice tomorrow, Al? Do you know?
Yep, it'll be an A320.
A320. There we go. Well, thank you for joining
That's
us.
Favourite.
Thank you for joining us, Captain Al. I'll take it
That's quite all right.
I'll take it you've recovered from the Pittsburgh meet.
Yeah. Well, I thought I might do a sort of Don Sebastian impersonation and just phone in the middle of the show. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wind down the window.
Oh.
There's a bit of wind noise.
Yeah, something we're used to from you, Al.
That is something we're used to.
Well, I set them up for you. Neville.
We actually have.
Am I right in thinking, is that First Officer Craig in the top of my screen there?
It is. Hello, Captain Al.
Very good morning to you, or is it afternoon? Depends where you are, I suppose.
It's almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon here, so.
Okay. So have you recovered?
I have, and I am already practicing for the next meetup.
He has a beer in hand, Al. He has a beer in hand.
Yes.
And I
recovered well.
So I fully intend on opening.
How is Sir Nev? Are you all right there in the middle
Yes,
of my screen?
yeah, not too bad. Yeah, I came back Tuesday morning, very nice flight back, and actually slept on the plane for about 3 hours, which is, as I've said to everybody else, that's never ever happened before, so I was sufficiently tired. And then straight back into it on Wednesday and Thursday for an exhibition, which did involve more alcohol, surprisingly enough. So
well, I suspect that you slept on the flight due to that blood loss. That must have tired you out.
Oh, absolutely, yes. That injury, certainly, it was horrific. But no, it's all healing up nicely now. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Good. Well, shall I leave you in peace to carry on with the show?
Well, it's always nice to hear from you, Al. It's a shame you're not at home and in the Al studio.
Have you done the top 10 yet?
No, we haven't got a top 10 this week, unfortunately.
Hang on. No top 10?
No top 10. I'm very sorry. We'll have one.
Is this because the executive producer hasn't been available today, so that therefore you haven't bothered?
That's what it is, Al. Yeah, the executive producer's ill, and we just couldn't be bothered.
Well, standards are slipping,
I know. Well, we'll have you back on the show again at some point soon, no doubt, Al.
I just want to check for, quality and standards. Was the number 2 story a Ryanair story?
It was, yes.
Okay, so the whole show hasn't fallen completely apart in Matt's absence.
No, not at all, Al, not at all.
Yeah, I had the humiliation of reading the Ryanair story, Al, which you can imagine how difficult that was for me.
Well, yes, I can imagine that was rather disturbing for you. Have you actually ever flown Ryanair, Nev?
Only once, from Luton to Kerry, and I will not be doing.
Back.
That's right. Yes.
Actually,
I'm not in a rush to do it again.
Actually, Liz Piper in the chat room, Al, has said that we should do a top 10 foods that you ate in Pittsburgh.
All right. Okay. Have you got your music lined up?
No, I haven't got the music lined up. God, I'm just about coping with what I've got here. I don't think. Actually, we could play some music. Wait a minute, hold on. Let's see if this works. Bear with me. This may
and that
work.
shows in at number 5, a new high riser.
No,
I just can't wait,
working.
Al, for you to get pulled over by the Greater Manchester Police or whatever district you're in at the moment, and explain to them what you're doing.
Yeah, explain to them what you're exactly doing. Well, I'm on a live show here. We're yeah. Oh, Barbara in the chat room has asked Al, how was the 787?
Do you really want to know?
Well, mine was lovely, Al. Mine was barely 3 months old, so mine was fantastic.
Well, the windows failed. That's all you need to know.
The windows failed. Really?
Yeah, well, the 787 has some sort of rather swanky, some sort of electrical system that dims the windows down or brightens them up depending on time of day and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it failed.
All right, okay.
So when everyone was trying to sleep in the middle of the night and all the windows brightened up, some bright spark amongst the cabin crew decided to make a PA apologising for the fact that the windows had failed.
And what airline was this, Al?
This was American Airlines.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't have that problem with Air Canada.
It makes lots of funny noises, that 787, doesn't it?
Oh, that's just the wisperness quiet of the engines, that is, Al.
Wisperness quiet, I see.
I know.
Don't ever whinge about the PTU making a barking noise on the Airbuses when that plastic fantastic makes some horrendous squealing and banging noises.
I thought that PTU sound actually, Al, was similar to someone sawing some MDF as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you do find yourself sawing MDF, please do put a mask on. The dust isn't good for you.
So you heard
Health
it here
and safety
first.
from Al.
You heard it here first, guys. Right, Al, we're gonna let you get back to your driving because we'd rather have you in good health for when you take those passengers off tomorrow. So, Al,
I'm hands-free. There's a concept for you.
That's what she said, and yeah. We shall catch up with you soon, Al.
Okay, well, it's been splendid phoning in and gate crashing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh,
No.
oops, that was my fault. Sorry, Al.
Oh dear, he appears to have gone.
He appears to. Sorry, very
Suddenly.
sorry,
What a
Al.
shame.
Very sorry, Al. Right, if we could get back to the news. Poor Al. I'll send him a bunch of flowers. So, next story is for you, Craig, isn't it?
It's my turn. Here we go. From the Aviation Herald, Mesa E-175 near Louisville, as they say it, on May 18, 2017. Hydraulic failure, all main tires burst on landing. Sounds like fun. Mesa Airlines Embraer ERJ-175 on behalf of United, registration 88325, doing flight 6073 from Toronto to Houston Intercontinental, with 77 people on board, was en route at flight level 340, about 100 miles northwest of Louisville, when the crew received indication of a hydraulic failure. The aircraft diverted to Louisville and landed on runway 717 right about 30 minutes after leaving flight level 340. However, all four main tires deflated during rollout and the aircraft was disabled on the runway. The runway needed to be closed until the aircraft could be removed from the runway. And there's a picture here of the plane from the rear end, and it does look like all four main tires have burst.
Yeah. How obviously you fly this particular type of aircraft, Craig. How major is that hydraulic failure? Is there various parts that can fail, or a full hydraulic failure on the aircraft?
I'm surprised to hear that they had this type of issue. There's three hydraulic systems on the Embraer 175. So they're all redundant and back up each other, and each one has portions of it going to the brakes in a certain set. So I don't know if it was a total hydraulic failure or what the issue was. I do understand that if it is a total hydraulic failure, that there's hydraulic accumulators that carry hydraulic liquid under pressure, and that the emergency brake would still work even if you lost all three hydraulic systems, and that you had to be very judicial when applying the emergency brake upon landing, because you can, as they did, blow out all the tires. So the emergency brake in the 175 is almost like an emergency or brake in a car, and you just have to be very careful and be very slow and smooth with it, and just bring it up ever so slightly till you get that brake pressure going. You don't want to just pull it up all the way to the stop, because then you'll definitely have the burst tires, because that's 3,000 psi of hydraulic fluid on the brakes. So glad no one was hurt, and hopefully they can get that plane back in working order soon.
So the hydraulic systems on the aircraft, then, Craig, obviously you've got the hydraulics for the brakes and stuff. So what else do the hydraulics control on the 175?
Ooh, you're testing my systems now. Here we go. The Embraer, the flight controls are all actuated by hydraulics. So the ailerons, it is traditional cables and pulleys, but it goes to a hydraulic actuator which moves the ailerons. And then you got the elevator and rudder and the stabilizer, which are all hydraulically powered, as well as the spoilers. Let's see, the gear retraction and extensions hydraulic, the braking's hydraulic. And one more, the engine reversers are also hydraulically actuated.
Oh, the thrust reversers.
Yes.
Yeah. Are they the same? What sort of engines are on the Embraer one set? Are they the ones that have the kind of I forget what it is now. They're not the clamshell. They're where the is it the side panels on the engine open up to produce the reverse thrust?
They're CFM 348E5 model engines, and they are not the clamshell. They're the portion where the back half kind of just moves back and creates that opening for the reverse thrust to come out.
And I'm guessing that stops fairly sharp when you put those thrust reversers on full.
Actually, the thrust reversers on the 170 aren't that great at helping, but the brakes are very, very great at stopping the plane. The plane was designed for short field operations, so you can definitely get stopped quick, but thrust reversers aren't really going to help you much with it. But the braking system is very powerful and will help you get stopped pretty quick.
There we go. Always good to have someone with plenty of tech knowledge on the show. Hey, Nev.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, I couldn't have answered that question, so I'm glad that Craig was around.
So the next story is on the straitstimes.com website. And a bit of a kind of little mini story one. The headline, Disappearance of Private Plane, 5 More Bermuda Triangle Mysteries. So for those of you who are listening who are interested in the Bermuda Triangle, so closely associated with frequent aircraft and boat disappearances, the Bermuda Triangle has captured the imagination of both conspiracy theorists and the general public. A small private plane carrying pilot Nathan Ulrich, 52, and his girlfriend Jennifer Blumen, 40, along with her 2 sons aged 3 and 4, disappeared without any warning on Monday, May the 15th. Debris of the plane was found on the next day around 24 kilometers east of Eleuthera, the Bahamas, said a United States Coast Guard spokesman. Theories behind the triangle's infamy range from adverse weather conditions to alien abductions. So there's a few 5 cases here of some stuff that's happened in the Bermuda Triangle, some of which you may have heard about. The first one on the list is Flight 19. This one was comprising of 5 United States Navy Avenger torpedo bombers carrying 14 men in total. Flight 19 took off from a base in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on December the 5th, 1945, before disappearing without a trace. Dubbed the Lost Squadron, the planes which were on a training flight have eluded all searchers to date. Multiple wreckage discoveries in the triangle have been attributed wrongly, including a widely publicised one in 1991. Navy investigators initially concluded that the planes likely ran out of fuel due to a navigational error before amending their conclusion to cause unknown. So next on the list we've got the Mary Celeste, a ship carrying goods from New York City to Genoa, Italy. The Mary Celeste was found adrift around 640 kilometres east of the Azores by De Gratia, a British ship, on December the 5th, 1872. Upon boarding the Mary Celeste, the De Gratia's crew discovered that much of the ships remained intact, but there was no sign of the 10-strong crew who left their belongings behind. Speculation of the crew's fate came to a head with a Smithsonian-funded investigation that concluded the crew likely abandoned the ship after the captain lost his bearings and got the ship stuck in a large storm. Next on the list, the USS Cyclops, one I've heard of, dubbed one of the most baffling mysteries in the annals of the United States Navy. The USS Cyclops was a collier ship, a ship designed to carry coal that was launched in 1910. Setting off for Baltimore from Barbados on March the 4th, 1918, all contact with the Cyclops was lost soon after, with all subsequent searches unsuccessful. The loss of the Cyclops, which carried 306 strong crew, remains the single largest loss of life not involving combat in the United States Navy's history, even though the ship operated at the height of World War I. Another aircraft-related one, number 4, Airborne Transport DC-3, November Charlie 16002. On the night of December 28, 1948, a Douglas DC-3 airliner piloted by Robert Lindquist disappeared en route to Miami from Puerto Rico. Ignoring warnings from a ground crew that the plane's batteries needed charging, Lindquist pushed for flight NC-16002 to remain on schedule, claiming that the plane's onboard generators could sufficiently charge it. After a final transmission claiming that the plane was 80 kilometers south of Miami, Lindquist's plane vanished along with his co-pilot, the stewardess, and all 29 passengers. Investigators concluded that several lapses of the part of Lindquist, including an overloading of the plane, contributed to the plane's likely malfunction and subsequent disappearance. The fifth one on the list, Carol A. Deering, discovered a ground off Cape Hatteras, North Carolina in 1921. The schooner Carol A. Deering was completely abandoned in a seeming haste, with what seemed like next day's meal being in preparation. On board the ship, other inconsistencies included an extra bed in the captain's personal chamber that was recently slept in, and a logbook written in a different hand from the captain's. The Deering has remained one of the most abiding mysteries associated with the Triangle, with other theories including a crew mutiny. So kind of a mix there of aviation and kind of shipping stories, but the Bermuda Triangle, definitely one of those mysteries that continues to baffle everyone. I'm guessing you don't fly anywhere near the Bermuda Triangle, Craig?
No, my company does go to some of the Caribbean islands, but do not think we go near the Bermuda Triangle. And if we have, we probably didn't hear about it because they just disappeared. So,
Well,
but not to my knowledge.
What do you think then, Craig? Is it all a myth, or do you think there's some kind of truth in the Bermuda Triangle?
Parts of me want to say it's a myth, but then parts of me do want to say it's true. Maybe they're just really good escape artists. It's a tough one to try and comprehend and get all the answers to.
What about you, Nev? Any thoughts on the triangle?
Yeah, I'm the same as Craig actually here. I'm very sceptical by nature, but it is strange, isn't it, how so many things have disappeared or things have happened in that region, and I don't know whether we will ever find out the real reason, but that there's something about that area, isn't there? Definitely.
Yeah, it definitely is one of those things that, that needs to be proven to be either real or fake, I think. But next story, Nev, is for you, especially
yes,
for you.
And it's thank you for choosing this one for me, Carlos. It's from the sun.co.uk, and usual exaggeration from the media department there. The travel department. Mid-air drama. British Airways flight BA 360 from Heathrow to Lyon forced to return after loud bang from engine 20 minutes into flight. And it says that the BA flight had been forced to return to Heathrow Airport this morning after passengers heard a loud bang from the engine. The early morning flight, BA 360, had taken off for its journey to Lyon when an in-flight emergency was declared about 20 minutes later. And one passenger said there'd been a loud bang whilst the plane was in the air. He told the Sun online after about 20 minutes there was quite a loud bang. We slowed down and slowly turned around. He said relieved passengers applauded when the Airbus A320 landed safely back in London. The passenger said that the plane had been told that there had been an engine stall, with engineers called in to examine the aircraft. More of that in a minute. I don't think it was really an engine stall. He said that the pilot came back to speak to the passengers after the emergency landing, with the pilot telling them that it was the first time we'd had an engine stall happen in real life, with pilots having trained for similar incidents through simulation exercises every 6 months. And the planes are now back at Heathrow, and BA said, we're very sorry for the delay to our customers' journeys after their flight returned to the airport following a technical issue. And the safety and comfort of our customers is always a top priority. And of course it is. But I think what they experienced was a compressor stall, I would imagine. And that is a local disruption of the airflow in a gas turbine or a turbocharged compressor. And I think it's actually related to a compressor surge, which is a complete disruption of the flow through the compressor. And with all the engine management systems that go on these days, a compressor stall is extremely rare, but does happen occasionally, and you normally get a nice bit of flame coming out the back of the engine at the same time. But obviously these aircraft are designed to fly on one engine, and so they just returned to Heathrow and obviously changed aircraft and deplaned the passengers. But quite loud, and I'm not saying that it's not alarming, but I think I'm right in saying, Craig, it's not exactly a catastrophe, is it? Not as the Sun would.
Yeah. Have you ever had any loud bangs on your aircraft, Craig?
Only when I hit my head on the top of the plane trying to get in. But I've never had a compressor stall or anything of the like. But Nev was correct in the explanation of what the compressor stall is, and that can create the loud bang. And the air does flow to the area of least resistance, so if there is that disturbance in the compressor area, then the air that's being combusted back will flow forward and make that loud bang. So I would agree with Nev in saying that that's most likely what happened in this case.
So there we go. Next story, and this one is for you, Craig.
Yes, it's loading. Give me a second. Here we go. This is from the Cron. U.S. airlines expect record number of summer travelers. All right, I just had a picture gallery pop up. 1 second. Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Airlines expected the number of air travelers to increase 4% during this year's summer travel period. A record 234.1 million passengers are expected to travel on the U.S. airlines this summer. Industry trade organization Airlines for America reported Thursday. That's up 4% from the 224.8 million people who traveled from June 1st to August 31st of last year. Raising the U.S. GDP, steadily improving economy, all-time high household net worth, and low airfares are fueling the expected growth in summer air travel, said A4A Vice President Chief Economist John Hemlick. We continue to see customers value experiences in travel, and airlines are responding accordingly by increasing staffing and boosting the availability of seats in the marketplace, as well as further investing in new aircraft and customer-facing technology. Last year, 14.6 million people traveled through Houston's airports during the 3-month summer period, the Houston airport system said.
Busy times for you then, Craig, obviously coming up then if this is increasing with passenger numbers in the US, which I'm sure is busy anyway as it is now.
Yes, it's the fine's starting to pick up in the last bidding period. I noticed there is a lot more available lines for pilots to bid on, and that means more pilots are coming off of reserve and actually getting the whole line schedule. We're also accepting a couple new aircraft, which will help increase our fleet, and hiring with my company, both on the flight attendant side and the pilot side, have been pretty steady. And so, yeah, busy times.
Excellent. So what is a busy time for you? I mean, how many flights would you do in a normal kind of work rotation then, Craig?
This month I have 3 4-day trips and 1 3-day trip, and the most I've had in one day is 4 legs, and least is 1 leg. But I'm flying a lot. I'm about 91 hours of flying this month is what I'm scheduled for, and the limit is 100. So
Wow.
they're working us pretty much up to the limit.
But you enjoy it though.
Oh, I love it. Compared to my last job, I enjoyed my last job, but that was a lot more flying, a lot more legs per day. So cutting those legs about half to even more than half, it's been more relaxing for me, but I enjoy the flying, so no complaints here.
So that's where we're going to bring the commercial part of the show, news-wise, to a close, and we're going to come back with some military news, a little splattering of military news to do with one of our air shows here in the UK. So we're going to come back to you right after this.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
TheVoicesInYourHead.com. The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself, and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com,
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823, Trent Dane for 23R Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2TME, turn right onto Bravo, link, 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/DME, approach runway 27 left. Follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
Aviation media has long been the domain of the newspapers and magazines.
Well, not anymore. I'm Steve Vischer.
And I'm Grant McCarran, and we're bringing aviation right into your radio.
Yes, we're making aviation cool and interesting for everyone.
Hang on, aviation's always been cool. Check this out.
How cool is this?
Grant, turn that down. Here at Plane Crazy Down Under, we've got pilots, engineers, air traffic controllers, industry leaders, even politicians dropping by to talk to us about the amazing world of aviation right here in Australia and occasionally in New Zealand as well.
Wow, that's cooler than I thought, mate.
Find us at planecrazydownunder.com, on iTunes, or lurking about on other people's podcasts just like this one.
We've got crazy accents and lots of great aviation content.
And we promise not to talk about the cricket.
No, never. Not the cricket. Quack, 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 quack. What is cricket anyhow?
Something we win a lot. Oh, there
Oh!
So the first story in the military news segment for this week is on the Lincolnite.co.uk, and the headline: Royal Air Force to send frontline fighting force to Scampton Air Show 2017. So the Royal Air Force has confirmed it will be sending its frontline fighter and ground attack aircraft to join the lineup for the highly anticipated 2017 Scampton Air Show, adding to an already exciting array of aircraft due to appear in Scampton on September the 9th and 10th. Visitors will now have the chance to get up close and personal with more awe-inspiring flying machines and walk amongst the RAF's premier in the Static Display Park. The Royal Air Force will be sending the Typhoon and 2 Tornadoes to the static lineup at the event. Joining them on display will be the Hawk T1, as flown by the Red Arrows, and more modern T2. The twin-engined King Air and 2 Tucano trainers have also been added to the static lineup, along with the Tutor Basic Trainer. Airshow Director Paul Sall is delighted with the RAF participation. He says the support from the Royal Air Force for this inaugural air show is truly exceptional. Scampton Air Show will offer the East of England a unique opportunity to see these aircraft, their air crews, and of course the international counterparts from France and Belgium, along with others to be announced at a later date at close quarters. This really does stand to be a colourful and awe-inspiring sight. Visitors can look forward to being immersed in a feast of aviation, meeting crews from around the world, getting up close and personal to aircraft in the static park, as well as experiencing the amazing 5-hour flying display. All of this plus a whole host of colourful activities happening on the ground. Scampton Air Show is perfect for families, and admission is free to under 16s. Now you can get tickets to the Scampton Air Show if you want to go to their website at www.scamptonairshow.com. One of the air shows that I haven't been to yet, actually, in all my years. Nev, have you been to the Scampton Air Show? Or?
No, I've heard a lot about it, but it sounds interesting, doesn't it, Carlos? Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, the one of the big surprises actually that I got from the Wings Over Pittsburgh air show was the fact how all the aircraft on display didn't have any fences or anything around them. You could walk right up and right up close to the aircraft, which I think was made a heck of a difference for me anyway. Walking around the aircraft, what do you think, Nev?
Yeah, I think it's also about the accessibility, isn't it? And I think they did such a good job of that. And when people put on air shows, and so often you just can't get near the hardware, as it were, and it's a little bit disappointing. But they did a great job there, and they did their very best to give us the best access that we could get, I think.
Yeah, they definitely did have a fantastic display there at the air show. So hats off to you, Rick Bell, if you're listening to the show. Well done.
He's Captain Rick is in the chat room.
Oh, Captain Rick, he's in the chat room. So big thumbs up to you, Rick. You've done exceptionally well for the air show. You've definitely done us proud. So Nev, the next story is all for you.
Yeah, this is from the airforcetimes.com, and it says that Air Force bombers are heading to England in June as part of an assurance and deterrence mission, according to the head of Air Force Global Strike Command. The bombers will spend a few weeks at RAF Fairford just exercising and showing our presence, General Robin Rand said at a Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies breakfast on Wednesday. The mission coincides with the annual Royal International Air Tattoo, which is the world's largest military air show, which we know all about, of course. And it's a good opportunity for us to do what we call a bomber assurance and deterrence mission, Rand said. He declined to discuss the specifics, including what type of bombers will be there, but he emphasised that this is a routine mission, and it doesn't mean that there will be a continuous bomber presence in Europe. RAF Fairford is a known forward operating location that has been used for US combat operations in the past, Rand said, referring to when US aircraft flew to Kosovo from Fairford. So actually, Fairford is quite a strategic place for the US guys there, isn't it, Carlos? And it's great that it's going to coincide with RIAT as well, which is brilliant.
Yeah, I was going to say RIAT is in July this year, the Royal International Air Tattoo at RAF Fairford. So yeah, which always has a good display of aircraft, military air or hardware on static display. So yeah, this will add to the massive display that is already there. Are you attending this year, Nev? Or?
No, I'm going to be away for a lot of June, but I don't think I will be this year. I can't quite justify the time nor the money, because I think it's quite expensive this year. You were saying shove the prices up.
Yeah, the ticket prices. I say they are expensive, I suppose, for an air show. But yeah, the big difference, I think, for me, after coming to Pittsburgh last week, was purely the fact that you could get up so close to these aircraft, which you don't get that opportunity at Riyadh, unfortunately. Nearly, I would say that at least 95% of the aircraft on static display at Riyadh are all fenced off, and you don't get a chance to kind of go up and poke and prod, as we'd say, the aircraft, which is unfortunate. But is this one of the things that you'd like to perhaps do in the future, Craig? Come over to the UK and go to one of the air shows here?
Oh, definitely. I've heard next year, I believe, is Riyadh and Farnborough together. So I would love to take Ashley over on a pre-honeymoon, since we're getting married next year around that time, and go enjoy those air shows and see our fine friends over on that side of the pond.
You don't think you could kind of coincide a honeymoon then with a visit to the UK and to big air shows? Do you think that would go down well? No?
She already said she's on board with it, so it's just like Nev finding the time for it, and we'll try and make it happen, but time will tell.
It'd be nice if you could make it over, obviously, for the two air shows, perhaps next year. Next year being obviously Farnborough as well. So perhaps next year we could all do another meet-up again, maybe at Riyadh or Farnborough. So, yeah, that'd be good. So, Craig, the last story is all for you.
Yes, it's from FlightGlobal.com. United States Air Force lists ban on lightweight pilots for F-35A ejection seat. The U.S. Air Force has removed a nearly 2-year-old restriction in the Lockheed Martin F-35A cockpit that banned pilots lighter than 61.9 kilograms, which is 136 pounds, over concern that the injection could cause a severe neck injury. The approval means that the Martin Baker Mark 16 ejection seat meets the original United States Air Force specification for the F-35 Alpha, which requires the manufacturer to operate all pilots weighing over 46.7 kilograms. I've flown in the seat myself and believe that these modifications, this is the safest ejection seat I've ever flown, says Brigadier General Scott Place, the F-35 Integration Office Director for the Air Force. Concerns about neck injuries in fighter cockpits have grown almost in proportion to the size of pilots' helmets as helmet-mounted cueing system technology has proliferated. The 2-year-old report by the Department of Defense Inspector General found that concerns about how such helmets could injure lightweight pilots were widespread. The U.S. Navy had banned pilots under 61.9 kilograms from flying the Boeing FA-18E and F model Super Hornet due to the same issue. For the F-35, the solution involved a mixture of modifications to the helmet, the ejection seat, and the ejection sequence. The Vision Systems International helmet was modified to reduce weight. The Rockwell Collins Elbit system joint venture removed internal straps and external visor. Martin Baker added a head support was installed onto the rear wrist risers of the seat as a cushion. The company also added a switch that the lighter pilots can activate. If the switch is turned on, the computer inside the seat modifies the ejection sequence in the event the pilot needs to exit the cockpit in flight. Modified sequence delays parachute deployment at high speeds and lower parachute opening forces. Modification will now be retrofitted on 100 F-35As already delivered to the United States Air Force and enter Lockheed's production system. As the restrictions lift, Martin Baker can breathe a sigh of relief. At one point last year, United States Air Force officials contemplated reopening the ejection seat competition, allowing United Technologies Aerospace Systems a chance to make a pitch for a newly developed ACES-5 ejection seat.
So one of these things you never think about, Nev, is that when you're, you look at these ejection seats and stuff, is that there are a weight limit. There is a weight limit, to have with these ejection seats.
Yeah, and obviously I would exceed that weight limit by some margin, I would imagine. But also there's the lower limit as well, I would guess. But yeah, it's the one thing you never want to have to do, isn't it? But of course, those that have done it have got the Martin Baker tie, and they are obviously the gear is made to a fantastically high specification, isn't it? So because it's got to work first time every time.
I was actually thinking back to the Pittsburgh trip. There was mention that maybe that United were going to fit one of these seats, especially for Brian Coleman.
Yes. Well, he needs it, doesn't he? Let's face it. No. So it obviously there are weight and height limits anyway, because the space available in these military aircraft is extremely limited, isn't it? So you've got to fit in it quite well.
So that's where we bring the military part of news to a close on the show this week. So as you've all seen and heard, we have got a very special guest indeed on the show and in the chat room as well. He's in the chat room as well. He's keeping the listeners engaged in the chat room. A massive thanks again to you, Craig, for coming on the show and joining us today.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. Been a listener for quite some time, so it's awesome to finally be on the show as a guest.
Oh, it's been good to have you. So, Craig, we'll have a little chat with you now. Then, so we're gonna talk a bit about your career and how things started for you with flying. So, let's go back to where it all began for you. What was the kind of initial start?
All right. When I was about 12 in middle school, I believe. My parents both worked at a baseball, softball, which are sports here in the U.S. for those who don't know, training facility down by Baltimore Washington International Airport. And on the weekends, my parents would take my sister and I there. And driving on the one road to get there, it was on the approach end of 33 left there at BWI, and seeing the Southwest planes fly over at what seemed almost arm reach out of the car length away really piqued my interest. And surprisingly enough, at the baseball, softball training facility, I saw a kid that had a laptop and a joystick playing, I believe it was Flight Simulator 2004 or something like that. So I was like, oh, I should get myself one of those. So a couple years down the line, I got myself a Flight Sim 10 and a joystick, and played that on and off, and that's kind of how I got the aviation bug.
So where did the actual flying part start? Did you have your initial PPL training before you obviously started into commercial stuff? So did you learn to fly as I've been flying the 150 or a sort of GA aircraft?
No. In high school, I had one or two flights with a buddy of mine and his dad. I played baseball with a friend of mine, and his dad co-owns a Cirrus, so I was able to get two flights with him and that, just around the neighborhood and whatnot. But it wasn't until it was time to look for colleges that my mom came to me. She was helping me in the search, and she was like, well, you can go to school to become a pilot. I was like, really? So that really piqued my interest, and decided to do it, and haven't looked back since. So I didn't actually start my flight training until the fall of 2012, so about 5 years ago.
So where did the actual airline part start for you, Craig? When did that training start?
For my current airline, the training started, I had my interview back in August of 2016, and in-doc class started the end of November, right after Thanksgiving here in the United States. And that was a couple weeks long, and then we had the simulator training, which was another couple weeks. And I finished that all up and finished my check. Sorry, my cat is attacking a bag of potato chips over there, and it's throwing me off.
That's fine.
Yeah, so simulator training, and finished my check ride in January, and then I didn't do my initial operating experience till about mid to late February, and that was a 4-day trip, and completed that, and I've been online and flying the line since.
So you said, obviously, in the kind of bio thing, Craig, that you had some flying in the Cessna 208 Caravan. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, in a my previous job before this current one, I was flying for a company called Mokulele Airlines, which, as the name might suggest,
Sounds
is a Hawaiian-based.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a Hawaiian-based airline that does island hopping out in Hawaii. But long story short, I was not in Hawaii. I was in the great state of Pennsylvania, flying the essential air service routes. We were being wet leased by a company called Southern Airways Express. So we were just in Pittsburgh last weekend, and I've done quite a bit of flying into there because of those essential air service routes. So we were flying Cessna Grand Caravans, dual pilot Part 135, flying passengers around.
So no parachute kind of flying like Dr. Steph does with the Caravan.
No.
No. So how does it compare, Craig, going from the 208 to the Embraer?
Automation and the technology in the plane. We had 4 Caravans out on the East Coast here. 2 of them had autopilot. 1 of them wasn't really worth anything, so you could say we only had 1 plane with autopilot. And they were all steam gauge airplanes. And on the FO side, which I was, we literally only had the standard 6-pack and nothing else. So it was 6-pack on my side, GPS, radio in the middle, and then the captain had all the bells and whistles of ADF and VOR dials and all that. So when it made it quite interesting when it came time for me to shoot a instrument approach, I actually had to look about 2.5, 3 feet over to the captain's side of the plane and look at his HSI horizontal situation indicator to fly an ILS approach, which when it was bumpy and bad weather made it quite interesting. But seeing that I'm a CFII and can teach instrument, that's how I had to teach instrument students, is looking across them at their instruments. So it wasn't that difficult, but at first it was interesting. But getting to the 170, 175, the technology's amazing. Autopilot's great. We also have auto throttles. Plane makes you really, really lazy. You have to fight complacency a lot, and definitely try my best to hand fly it as much as I can.
Just a quick question from the chat room, Craig. Liz Piper asked, "What are your career aspirations? What sort of career progression would you like for yourself?"
I would love in the next, I'd say 5-10 years, to get on with FedEx flying the MD-11. I would love to fly something with more than 2 engines before they all go extinct. But if for some reason FedEx doesn't work out, I think Southwest would be another great choice with the proximity to home and seeing that they're a great company. Then after that, I think I got American United tied for 3, just again, their bases and proximity to home here in Baltimore.
And Mike asks, he says that you're certified on the 170, 175 and 190. What are the main differences between those 3 types of aircraft?
Between the 170, well, they're all a common type rating. The 170, 175, the only difference is the 175 is 5 feet longer. It's got the same wingspan, same engine, same everything. It's just a little longer and can carry a little more weight. And as far as the 190, we didn't get the 190 differences training because we don't have that aircraft at our company anymore. So I'm not fairly familiar with the 190 in all its specs, but it is taller, larger wingspan, longer, and a little heftier engines on the 190.
Yeah, interesting. And another question from Mike. How did you meet your fiancée, Ashley? Was that through the world of aviation or something else?
No, a high school job of mine. I was working at a local ice rink in the area as a skate guard, so people come just skate around, and I was there to help people up, kind of make sure they follow the rules, this, that, and the other. And one day I was working, and there was this beautiful woman there, and skating around, and she ended up falling, so it was for my job. And to meet her, I went up to her to try and help her up, and she snubbed me, saying, "No, I'm fine, I'll get up on my own." And was playing hard to get all evening long, and by the end of the night, I ended up giving her my number.
Oh yes, how very chivalrous of you as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
Well, it's great to hear some of those questions in the chat room. Any more, Carlos, at all?
Yeah, I was going to say actually, as obviously you've flown the Caravan and stuff, and you're a CFI. The CFI part of that, what kind of training was involved in getting that qualification? Could you go out now and come over here in the UK and train me? Because that'd be quite handy.
I would love to, Carlos. I'm sure you'd be a great student to work with.
Thank you.
But as far as legality-wise, I'm not sure how a FAA flight instructor certificate translates into a ICAO or European one. So might have to look at the legality issues of that. But after I got my commercial, I did private instrument, commercial multi, and then commercial single. Then I'm only ready to do flight instructing on single engine aircraft, and it took quite some time. I took a lot of extra credits that semester of school, kind of misjudged it all, and I think the limit's 18, and I got approval to do 23 credits that semester. So I dove in the deep end those couple months, and it took about 5 months for me to get, when I started CFI training, to finish it, just because of how much work I had going on at the time. But no, it was a good experience. I'm glad I did it, and I hope that I keep it up. I do enjoy instructing, but it's a lot more stressful than just flying a passenger aircraft.
So the airline you fly for at the moment, Craig, Acme Jr., are there any aircraft in that fleet that you'd like to get your hands on, or is it just mainly the Embraer aircraft that you're flying?
We are only operating the 170-175. The company did used to own Q400s, 170-175s, 190s, and at one point CRJs, I think, way down the line. But after the whole bankruptcy that we went through the last couple of years, we consolidated down to just 170, 175. We're the largest Embraer 170, 175 operator that I know of.
So going on to sort of like to the future, obviously you said you want to try and move into cargo. How quickly do you want to make that progression, or are you going to keep with the airline for some time and try and move into the left seat at some point?
I'd like to move to the left seat. I would like to get that PIC time and experience to help me move on to my future job. That might take, they're saying about 2-3 years for that upgrade time. I'm thinking it might start cutting down here soon. There seems to be a lot of movement going on now that our company just got out of bankruptcy and all that. So I'm hoping within the next 5 to 7 years I'll be at my mainline goal of FedEx, and hopefully within the next 1.5 to 2 years upgrading to captain.
So we've got a question for you from the chat room again, Craig. This is from Tony S. He's asking, how quickly can you progress up the seniority ladder at regional airlines such as Acme Jr.?
For me, it's been quite quickly. I've been on the seniority list since November of last year, and I've already bumped up almost 200 spots. So that's people being hired behind me and people leaving ahead of me. From what I understand, that's pretty darn quick, and I'm sure it's just going to get quicker with all the movement that's going on between majors and regionals and all that. So I'm hoping that the progression continues to speed up.
That'd be nice. Nice if you could hit that left seat as soon as possible. So, Craig,
Yes.
obviously we've talked on the show before about the kind of chats and the stuff that the pilots give the passengers before takeoff and that. And some airlines that we have here in the UK, a lot of the flight deck crew don't bother to chat to the passengers during a flight to give any information at all, whatever. Do you think that's an important thing? I mean, do you yourself kind of give any tidbits of information while you're en route to a destination?
Before a flight, I don't have much interaction with the passengers just because all my pre-flight checks that me and the captain have to do in getting the plane set up for the flight, and usually working in the northeast corridor. There's very quick turns and bad weather, so we're usually delayed and makes a little bit hectic. But in flight, when I'm pilot monitoring, I try and give the passengers a heads up when we're starting down our descent into wherever destination we're going to. And for those of you curious, we do fly for the big three. I just make a generic statement of thank you for flying with us, either morning, evening, afternoon, just to cover myself, so that way I don't mess up saying which airline we're representing that day. But I usually try and give them the weather, what kind of ride to expect, smooth or a little turbulent, and how long we should be on the ground, and just thank you for flying with us that day, and look forward to seeing them again, because they do pay for my paycheck, so I'm very grateful of that.
Just a couple of other questions from the chat room, Craig. One from Liz Piper. Would you like to own a GA aircraft, and if so, which one?
Yes, I would. That would be great. Funds are going to prohibit that, but Caravan, I love that airplane. I have 600 plus hours in it, and it's a well-flying machine, can do what you need to get done, and just have a blast flying the Caravan. So that's the one I would get if I could.
Yeah, excellent. And last one from the chat room. Captain L asks, rather inevitably, which airport has the best catering for a quick turnaround snack?
Ooh, let's see. I did stop in Minneapolis last week, and they had a pretty decent donut shop right outside the gate we parked at. Yep. And I got myself a pretty, I'd say, decent-sized donut. It's called Baker's Gold, and had cream inside and glazed, and that's probably the best snack I've grabbed on a quick turnaround so far.
No, this stuff's important to Al, obviously. So he needs to know. He needs to know. But I think we also probably actually find a chef or something, and for them to make a signature dish called the Captain Al or something. And I'm sure we'll do that one of these days, won't we?
Yes, we should make an effort to make that happen.
Yes, right.
Another question from the chat room, actually, Craig, from Richard King, and he's asking, do the regionals bond you for training?
Some, maybe. Mine, I'm kind of in a bond with them. After my previous job with Mokulele, I was, say, 60 hours short of my time requirement to get on with the regionals. And my company actually puts out what they call the flight time initiative, where they'll pay for your last 100 hours of flight time if you need it. So it's all prorated. Since I only need 60, they don't really charge me 60, but if I were to, for some reason, leave this job, I would owe them all that money back. They put me up in a hotel and gave me $25 a day for food stipend, and stuck me with a partner who I've become good friends with, Joseph. Not sure he's listening, but Joseph Smith. David Abbey knows him. He's from the New York area. We flew around together, building up the time so we could get to the airline we work for currently a little quicker. And because I took part in that program, I do have to work for Acme Junior for 2 years. And if I had to forego my sign-on bonus as well. But if I were to leave for some reason, it would all have to be paid back prorated.
Oh, that's interesting indeed. So moving on to a bit, just looking in the chat room to see if there's any more questions from the chat room. So from the point of view of me, one of the questions that I always want to ask the captains and the pilots and everyone we interview on the show, anyone who flies a plane, Craig, if you're given the chance to fly any aircraft, whether it being flying in the air now or retired or anything at all, it could even be one of those weird things called a helicopter, but if you were given the chance to fly anything at all, what would that aircraft of choice be for you?
I knew this question was coming since I've listened to the show for quite some time, so I'm prepared with the answer. It would be the Martin B-26 Marauder.
I don't think I've seen one of those, Nev.
It's a World War II mid-sized bomber. The U.S. didn't really use it a lot, but I believe that through the Lend-Lease exchange in World War II, we gave some to you fine folks over in Great Britain. And I believe they had a very large part in Monte Cassino battle and bombing that whole thing. But it was actually developed and built here about 15 minutes from where I'm currently sitting, back at Martin State Airport. The Martin Glenn Aircraft Company came up with it.
There you go. I'll have to look that one up for me. I think I'm going to have to look on Wiki for that. So another actual before we finish up, wrap up the show, Craig. Another important question, I think, as well. This is
Yes.
especially for my wife Gemma, who's upstairs now as well. Obviously, she puts up with a hell of a lot of aviation geekery from me, especially in the office upstairs with all the stuff, models and stuff. How does Ashley cope with your kind of aviation? Obviously not just the flying, but obviously you're interested in aviation. And, how does she cope with that?
As long as I don't bother her too much with it, she's a pretty good sport about it. I try and do a lot of things she likes. She's very into the arts and the media industry, so we try and go see plays or movies, those sorts of things. But and with the travel benefits now, it's really easy to cope her into going somewhere and flying for a little vacation. So she appreciates that side of what I do.
Has Ashley ever flown as a passenger on board the aircraft when you've been flying?
Yes, she has. Not for my current job, but back when I was flying for Mokulele, she did hop on board one of the flights on the Caravan with me and took her up from Pittsburgh to where I was based in the most desolate place called Bradford, Pennsylvania.
So you're lucky there. I think Gemma's only been up with me once in the 172. That was a few years ago. But no, our respective other halves do put up with a heck of a lot, I think, when it comes to the aviation community and that. So, yeah, hats off to all our partners in crime. So
Yes.
So we are going to start to wrap up the show. Any last bits from you, Nev?
Yeah, I just wondered, just finally, what everybody's favourite part of Pittsburgh was. Start with Craig. What was your favourite part?
Favorite part was meeting you fine gentlemen, as well as the other podcasters and AvGeek listeners. That was by far the best part of the whole weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge military aviation geek, I have to say, but I did enjoy, the whole experience being there. But again, it's all about the community. It's all about the people that we met. And, that was a fantastic thing. And what did you think, Carlos?
I think I'm the same as Craig, actually, Nev. Getting to finally meet a lot of these people that we see in the chat room each week. You see the names and the little icons on the pictures and stuff, but to finally meet some of these amazing people that come and join us in the chat room every week, and it was just a fantastic, marvelous few days away. It was a sad day on Sunday when we all kind of had our last evening meal together, and said our goodbyes and stuff. It was it was hard, but no, we had a fantastic time. And just want to thank everyone really who joined us all, for the live shows, and obviously at the hotel. We obviously took over most of the Marriott Hotel. There, most of the crew, the podcast teams were all in various parts of the hotel. So a big thanks to the hotel people for allowing us to take over virtually the whole hotel. But no, it was a great time, and I thoroughly hope that some of you guys can come across to the UK again next year for either Rio or Farnborough. So hopefully might see you next year, Craig.
I hope to see you as well.
Yeah, it'd be good. So the chat room's been busy tonight. chatting amongst themselves. The usual suspects in the chat room as always. Dr. Steph has just appeared in the chat room as well, and apparently Dr. Steph has lost weight, Nev, since the Pittsburgh trip.
Well, yes, I got on the scales. I think it was Tuesday morning when I got back. A shocking state of affairs, and that will take me a few months to fix. But I'm going on holiday on June the 1st, so yes, I was to try and lose the weight before I go on holiday, which I'll put more weight on, obviously.
And obviously we've had Mike has been in the chat room, Liz Piper, Lane Street, Captain Al's obviously been in there, Paul Tricker has been there, Captain Jeff was in the chat room as well, Pilot Pip, he is appeared in the chat room. I don't know if Pip's still in the chat room or not, but Pip's been in there. Mark Harvey, Jennifer's obviously been in there, Richard King, Barbara has been in there, Don Sebastian was even in the chat room earlier as well, so hello to you, Don, because we had quite an exciting part of the show, the live show on the Saturday, with an appearance by Don Sebastian, which is always awesome to see Don. So before we wrap up, then Craig, where can we follow your journey anywhere, or is there anywhere we can sort of keep tabs on you apart from the BFF Twitter message account?
Yes, I'm on Twitter, FO Craig, or it's at Greenhorn CFI. I'm also on Facebook, Craig Pyzik, PYZIK, and I think that covers it pretty much. I usually post on those two the most. So
awesome. Well, we're going to wish you all the best for the future, Craig, with all your flying, and let's hope that you can progress rapidly into that left seat and then on to flying some cargo. But don't be too busy like a certain Miami Rick that we all know, because he's far too busy. He's far too busy. So try not to be that busy, Craig.
I'll try not to. I'm actually on a string of 10 days straight off. I think I got 2 days left of it, so I'm enjoying it, but I'm looking forward to get back in the plane and flying around.
So, Nev, I'm going to thank you for joining me this evening, and obviously kind of standing in for Matt, who hopefully is on his way to recovery from
yes, we'll get well soon, Matt, and hope you're feeling a bit better, and hopefully he'll be back next week.
Yeah, I know the chat room has wished Matt all the best for his recovery, and hopefully I haven't caused too much editing at all for Matt during the show. I
think be proud of you, actually, Carlos. You did a great job there, mate. Very good, very nice.
Oh, thank you very much.
I agree. Good job, Matt. Carlos.
Yeah, he's in the background, Craig, really pressing all the buttons.
Yes, he is.
So I'm going to thank you very much, Craig, for joining us on the show tonight. It's been fantastic to talk to you, and obviously meet you last week at Pitts. So on behalf of all of us here at PTUK, Craig, thank you ever so much, and like I said, good luck for the future.
No problem. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to hearing future shows. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Awesome. So that's where we're going to bring episode 165 of the Plain Talking UK podcast to a close. Hopefully I'll press the right buttons next and you'll hear the end credits rolling. So on behalf of me, Carlos, I'm going to say good night to everyone. Hope you all have a great, fantastic weekend with whatever you're doing around the world. And don't forget to look on Facebook and check out for when the next show will be next Friday. I would imagine it will be next Friday evening again. Don't forget to look us up on the website, allthews.plaintalkinguk.com, on Twitter at plaintalkinguk, and also on Facebook, Plain Talking UK Podcast on Facebook as well. Look for us on there. And if you're downloading the show via iTunes, don't forget the all-important little rating on iTunes, because that does help drastically push us up on the iTunes list of aviation podcasts. So if you're on iTunes and you download the show via iTunes, please do just click on the ratings tab and give us a little rating. So that's where we are going to bring the show to a close. Like I said, we're going to say a massive thanks to our guest Craig, and obviously to Neville as well for helping as well this evening. So I'm going to just give you guys a little chance to give everyone a wave before we finish tonight. So give us all a wave and a goodbye.
Cheers, folks. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for having me. Take care.
And from me, Carlos, it's a massive goodbye. Take care and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.